Alrighty, hello everyone, this is Halloween Haunter here, and today we are doing a big video covering all of the Lowe's Halloween 2024 releases, leaks, demos, you got it, everything in this video. Now the Lowe's leaks have been going around for the last few months, however I actually haven't really covered Lowe's at all on this channel. It's not because I don't like any other stuff or that I don't care to cover any of it, it's just that there is so much of it that I almost regret and dread making a big video on it. And after a while, because for a while I wasn't really in the content mood, it now being a few months later, it kind of was irrelevant until the links and the demos just barely came out for half of the Halloween. They're even teasing it officially for half of the Halloween. So it's about time now we finally go ahead and cover everything from Lowe's that I've been missing. All the Jimmy stuff and techie stuff. We'll start off first with the Jimmy stuff just because there's currently no demos, and in my opinion, it's definitely the weakest of the two companies. So let's start with Jimmy first. First, we have the return of the 12-foot mummy, who's going to be again $350. Nothing really crazy here. It's cool to see it back. It started going wholesale earlier this year, so I was kind of worried that Lowe's would drop it. However, I think Lowe's still wants to carry on with it, and it's not returning yet again for another year. And then we also have another big prop from Jimmy. We have is the 10-foot skeleton. Now I haven't heard any info about this one. I'm not even sure if it's really a Lowe's prop or if it's just there for decor, but I would bet it's a prop just because everything there's a prop, so might as well include that, right? We've only really seen this one through the leaked manager meeting, so no new info about it. However, this thing isn't really new to Lowe's. This thing's been going around for the last couple years now because Jimmy and Sunstar made their own 10-foot skeleton, trying to get off the hype from the 12-foot skeleton, and I'm guessing Lowe's just wanted their own big skeletons, so they just ordered the Jimmy one, which is kind of weird just because this thing is not exclusive. I would have much preferred an exclusive one, as this one's going to be sold at very many stores this year and probably online, so kind of weird there. But hey, if you want that now, it's going to be at Lowe's. Next we have is the Haunted Mansion line from Lowe's. We have a Haunted Mansion column for $130. Nothing crazy here, just a simple column set piece for your Haunted Mansion display, I guess. If you want more Haunted Mansion stuff, that's kind of cool. But now talking about the animatronics. So last year we had the Caretaker animatronic at Lowe's. So this year I think they kind of want to go off more of the Haunted Mansion stuff, which I think is a good idea in retrospect. However, I think it kind of falls flat. The first we have is the Headless Bride. There's no current video on this thing, but according to the description, it speaks spooky phrases, neck projects red light, and eyes light up green. And for the animation, it has body turn. So pretty simple animation and sound effects, nothing crazy there. But honestly, I think this thing sucks. I do not like how this thing looks. It's not really an iconic character from the Haunted Mansion 2, so it's just a very weird and ugly looking prop. Even like out of the two from this year and the Caretaker last year, it's definitely the worst one of the bunch, and this one's gonna be $200. Definitely am not buying it, just not my cup of tea personally. But if you want more Haunted Mansion stuff, well, there you go. And now for our next Haunted Mansion prop this year, we have is the Headless Knight. This guy's gonna be $300, and according to the description, plays the grim grinning ghost and sings that song, and of course his mouth also does move. So not a ton of animation there. I will say that this one is pretty decent. It's not bad or anything, but for me, if I want to get Haunted Mansion props, I want to get props like Madame Leota, the Hitchhiking Ghost, and the Hatbox Ghost. I think those three should be definitely big props for Haunted Mansion. I know we've had a few small Leotas, but not really an actual big one. So I was hoping, you know, for getting Haunted Mansion stuff, we'd get some of that. But they're still pulling the thing where they're not making any characters like that and just kind of more random characters from the ride, which isn't really bad in retrospect, but I think their focus should have been to do more iconic characters first, and if they want to continue like elsewhere, they could have made these animatronics after that. I don't like the idea that these are our first animatronics out of all the Haunted Mansion characters you can choose. It's just these kind of random ones, so personally, I'm not really into it, and I'm not going to be buying it, even though I think it is a pretty decent prop. Next we have is the Gargoyle Tombstone. According to the description, this thing's arms and wings move, so pretty basic stuff there. And apparently it is weatherproof, so kind of cool, I guess, but I just don't really like how this thing looks. I think it looks really ugly. I don't know, I think the body looks really weird, the pillar looks a bit cheap, wings are kind of cool, but still, I don't know, not my thing personally. Not a big fan of it, so I mean, it's there. It's going to be a $200 prop. Next we have is a Seaweed Witch. She's going to be $180. And according to her description, her arm with staff moves, and she's also got mouth movement. So again, nothing too crazy there. It is pretty decent for what it is. Nothing crazy and nothing I love personally or care about, but I will say for what it is, it's perfectly fine. Nothing really too wrong with it, so yeah. And finally, moving away from Jemmy and moving on to what I think is the core at Lowe's, the stuff I actually really like, the things I think I'm going to be getting from here are from Techies. First of all, we have the return of the 12-foot Scarecrow. This thing actually came back in stock for half of the Halloween, and it currently still is, so if you do want it, I recommend it. It's a really cool prop, and I have one myself, so a really good one to have. Cool to see it back for yet another year. But now we have some more smaller animatronics. First we have is the Pumpkin Scare. This thing basically is kind of like Jack Carver from Spirit Halloween, where a pumpkin head shoots up and shows a skull underneath it. It's kind of more of a groundbreaker thing too. And it is pretty big from what I've seen, and it is going to be $200. So from here on out, the prices for Lowe's are going to be pretty much overpriced. Like, a lot of it does not make sense. So I'm not even going to talk about prices from here on out. A lot of them don't really make sense for what you get, and I have no idea why Lowe's this year is very expensive. I think their stuff this year is really cool. I think they have a lot of like unique stuff coming their way, but a lot of it is just really overpriced. So I'm not going to be mentioning price much in this video, but when I do talk about price, it definitely is important. So $200, not really worth it. And this thing I don't really like. I think it looks too cheap. I think the pumpkin looks really good, but the overall skull and body, not my thing personally, just not really into it. Next we have is the Grave Zombie, retailing for $150. And this thing is kind of like the pop-up Grave Zombie from Spirit Halloween 2014, where the zombie actually shoots up from the dirt and pops up. It's kind of cool, but for me, I don't think it looks that great. I don't know, kind of cheap. I will admit in the video, it's not that bad, but personally, I just don't really care about it. So, I mean, it's there if you want it. Kind of a cool scare and one of their cheaper props this year. So, not entirely terrible. Next, we have is some of the Reaper Band props. So, last year, Lowe started to make their own like line of Reaper bands. So, last year, we had the Guitar Reaper and the Reaper drums. And these things are actually Bluetooth, so you can go ahead and hook them up to any song you want, and they will actually move and synchronize with whatever audio you are playing. So this year, the Bluetooth Reaper drums are coming back this year. Same price for $250, nothing crazy there. It is cool to see it back. And next we have is kind of the return of the Guitar Reaper. It's a very strange story. So if you compare this one to last year's model, the guitar is actually a new mold, so a totally new mold for the guitar, and it does look really good. And I think it is really cool. However, I'm not really sure why it's not much different than the original. I think if you want a whole set of bands, this one should look a lot more different than the original. And it actually originally did. So the prototype of this thing actually had a green guitar. And I think that is awesome, just because if you get the one from last year, you can get this one now and have two Reapers playing the guitar, have the Bluetooth drum Reaper in the front, and then the two new ones on the side. But unfortunately, they just brought it back to being red, and it's not really much different. So I feel like that is very disappointing, considering this could have been different and you could have had two Guitar Reapers together. But unfortunately, it's just basically the same thing. So not really much crazy there. But now for the more cooler side of the Bluetooth Reapers, we have is the Keyboardist Reaper. This guy I believe is going to be $250, don't know for sure. And there's actually no link for this one, unfortunately. I don't know why. No link has surfaced for this guy. And personally, he does look really cool. I like this one quite a bit. I like how this one's like fingers kind of go up and down with the board and his head moves. Really cool stuff there. And he honestly looks pretty good too. He kind of got hair coming up the side of his head. You know, very punk-esque looking Reaper. Looks really good. Definitely one of the best to come out of this line. And next is the final of the Bluetooth Reaper band we have is the Singer Reaper. This guy's going to be $250. And he basically is just like a punk singer. You can tell from the demo, this guy's head rocks up and down. And I think his mouth moves. Personally, it would have been really cool to see like the mouth more synced up. But overall, a really nice piece to see. Definitely, again, one of the cooler ones as well. Like his design a lot. And the tombstone he's kind of perched on looks really good too. So definitely one of my favorite ones for sure. I would love to get the entire band line, but I didn't get any of the ones last year. So getting the new ones this year would be much more of an expense, having to buy the older ones. And the new ones definitely a big budget. And I don't think I have enough money just to spare it for those guys just yet. So as much as I want this line, I might have to pass just for now. But just know I actually love this entire line. A very cool thing from Techie and Lowe's. I'm glad they are doing more with that this year. And speaking of singing Reapers, we now have is the little tiny rapping Reaper. This thing is going to be 80 bucks, and he's basically just a small little guy, and he raps and his head kind of like bobs to the side. And overall, just a very inoffensive prop. Very fun, I think, very cute, very cursed. I have nothing wrong with it, honestly. I know a lot of people probably think it's dumb, but I think it's fun for what it is. Perfectly okay. So honestly, I kind of like it. Probably won't get it, but hey, it's cool, it's funny, I'm all for it. Now we had the Wednesday line, or also the Addams Family line, because technically one of the props isn't from Wednesday, it's more from the Addams Family. However, we have 3 props from those IPs. First we have is Cousin It from the Addams Family. And overall, this guy is pretty decent. He's going to be $200. Nothing really wrong with it. I just personally, if I'm going to get any props from the Addams Family or Wednesday, it's not this guy. I think it's a cool idea, and I think if you're a Addams Family fan, it's cool to get more of the characters from the movies and shows and the IP overall. But I don't know, just not one I really cared about getting for a prop. It's fun for what it is, but I just don't really care about it. It's not a character I really was fond of. Oh, I need to see as a prop right away, and it's very cutesy, so I mean it's fine, but for me, don't really want it. And next we have is Joseph Crackstone from Wednesday, an actual Wednesday prop. And this guy, at first, I was really on board with, just because early designs of this guy looked really cool. However, when I actually saw the actual demo video and the actual stock photos, I definitely don't love it anymore. I think it's okay. I think the face looks too much like a techie face, if that makes sense. And that's not inherently bad. However, it's not really accurate to the source material. It's very strange looking now. I will say the animation is pretty cool with the side-to-side turning, shooting out fog. I think it's really cool, but I think this guy lacks in facial design, and he is also going to be 450 bucks. Now, I was just mentioning how I want to talk about price in this video much, but this guy's price is probably the worst one out of everything here. That is ridiculous for what it is. This guy at the most should be 300 bucks, 330 maybe, just because he is pretty big, but not really doing a lot, and he is licensed, so I don't really get why he's 450. That's more than any of the 12 figures that Lowe sells. Very ridiculous, personally. Not a fan of that price tag at all, and overall just not a fan of the prop really, so I definitely will pass on this one for now. But next of the 3 is also coming from Wednesday. It is Wednesday Addams herself. Now this version of Wednesday is of course from the Wednesday Netflix series, and she's actually more portrayed from the scene where she does her dance. And honestly, though it's not the classic design for Wednesday, I really enjoy this prop quite a bit. I think it looks really good, the dress looks really good, and the facial design is really good too. Oftentimes, especially for a plastic face, it's really hard to replicate a human face. But I will say for Wednesday here, though it's not perfect, it looks pretty close to Jenna Ortega or Wednesday herself. I think it looks really good, and the animation is very fluid. I think Techie and Lowe's did a very good job with the animation. It's very fluid, and the dance here looks very accurate to the one in the show. So overall, a really good one. Honestly, for 250 bucks, though it is a lot, it does have a unique mechanism, and I think is not too bad. So I can definitely see myself buying this one this year. A very unique piece for what you get. Next is the aquatic line from Lowe. So this year Lowe's is actually going more to the aquatic stuff, which is very interesting. I feel like last year they had a lot of graveyard stuff. This year seems to be more on aquatic stuff, which I know is kind of a hit or miss for people. Personally, I'm not really an aquatic guy myself or a nautical guy. Just not really my thing for Halloween. However, I will say quite a bit of the stuff is really good. First we have is this zombie octopus thing. This thing is going to be $200, and it is really big. It's a static prop. It just lights up. Nothing really crazy here. It is a static prop, but it does look really good, and it does look very big. So, I mean, maybe at the half off sale, I could definitely see myself buying this one, but nothing really too special with it. Next we have is the Siren Witch, or the Servo Sea Witch. This thing is going to be $350, and from here on out, pretty much all the aquatic stuff is going to be $350. Not really sure why that's the ideal price tag for all of them, but that is apparently what they're all going to be retailing for. And the Servo Sea Witch, or the Siren Witch, definitely the biggest disappointment on all of this props here. When I first saw leaked early stock photos, this thing looked amazing. I was so on board with this thing. It's basically Techie's and Lowe's equivalent to the Home Depot SVI, Lethal Lily, and I thought that was really cool. And yeah, her servo animation is kind of cool. Her eye blinking is definitely very weird, but I think the eye and head movement is very good, so nothing wrong there. But my issue with it is, one, the face looks really weird, the teeth look really weird, the eyes do light up like a bright white, and I think that looks pretty bad. And then when her eyelids close, you can still see the LEDs piercing through the eyelids. It just doesn't look great. Clothing is cool in some areas, but overall pretty generic. The staff is pretty cool, and her hand like weirdly just lights up green. I get what they're doing, but I don't know. This prop is just a lackluster thing. I was really hoping this one would be really cool. I think it kind of sucks. It just definitely was a big disappointment for me. But with that being said, I am excited for Techie getting more into servos. I think that can be very cool in the future. So I mean, at least the servos are being used here for Techie, but I don't think here the Siren Witch is a good prop at all. I think it's definitely a big disappointment for me. But now for some cooler nautical stuff, we have is the Zombie Fisherman, and this guy honestly looks super dope. I like how this guy has a really cool unique face. Some cool movement. His head kind of like sways side to side, his mouth moves, and his hook hand does move up and down. And again, he looks really good. I like the squid kind of coming out of his mouth. Some cool things there. Really good design here. I'm not really sure yet if I will pick this one up or not. I gotta see with my budget first and everything else. But overall, a really neat piece, and I honestly love it a lot. Next we have is the Sea Captain, and I think this guy is probably one of the coolest nautical props we have out there, including from Home Depot. And here, this guy is really awesome. I love how he's got his own like steering wheel, and I will say for the price, even though he's still like a bit overpriced, he's definitely the most worth it out of everything here, just because he is pretty big. And then plus he's also got the whole wheel. I like how the wheel moves with his arms, pretty cool there. And of course some simple mouth movement. This guy is really good. The audio sounds great, so good job Techie. This one rocks. But probably my favorite of the whole nautical line is the Scuba Diver. And this guy, I think, is probably the best nautical prop, or at least one of the best ever. This guy actually looks pro-like. This is basically the Exterminator, but of course as a scuba diver. His body turns. He's got really cool lighting in the helmet with that skull shining through it. Looks really good. And his body overall looks really nice too. A good position as well. Honestly, out of all the nautical stuff on here, he's definitely the highest on my list. And I can honestly definitely see myself buying this one. Just a really awesome one. So once again, great job Techie. And now moving on to two normal animatronics. We now have the Handstand Clown for $300. And this thing is amazing. First off, Techie is awesome with clowns, and even then last year when we had Clown and Stills, I thought he was amazing and really good for what he was. And now we have an even more unique clown. This clown stands on two bowling pins, his legs kind of kick back and forth, and his head turns 360, which is amazing. I will say his price tag is not as overpriced as some of the other props this year. Definitely a bit high still. I wish he had some mouth movement. Then I could definitely say it's more worth it. However, I can get past that. This guy's amazing. I am probably gonna be getting this one this year, honestly. I doubt I will miss my shot on this one. Colors are great too. He's got some white LEDs. Just overall, a great one. And you know what else is also an amazing piece? We have is a 12-foot Gravedigger from Techie. This guy has phenomenal animation. Now, I am a bit worried about quality just because the 12-foot Scarecrow was definitely poor quality last year. I'm hoping this year that and this guy are improved, just because this guy for $400 definitely seems more worth it than the Scarecrow, because this guy actually has mouth movement, head turning, and his eyes move too. And I think it looks really good. I thought the prototype of this guy looks really bad. However, this one here definitely is all fixed up. No stupid hat. He's got like a cool hood, a really cool looking face. I love the big shovel. My only complaint here is that the skeleton coming out of the bag looks really dumb. I think that could be easily customized though, or removed just to make it look better. But I will say again, definitely for the price tag, this one does seem more worth it, and definitely one I'm gonna have to get this year. With that being said, that pretty much wraps up everything from Lowe's. So everything I've missed, I finally have covered now. Honestly, a really good lineup this year from Lowe's. I'm not really sure if I like it more than last year's lineup. I definitely am kind of sad that there's no pneumatics this year. Even though the pneumatics sold poorly last year, I was hoping they would go ahead and can continue on with that and make newer ones that are a lot better, because I think last year they had the idea down, but the execution was definitely a bit weak. So I was hoping this year they would definitely make more and nail the execution more. But unfortunately, currently we have no pneumatic props, which is kind of sad. But overall, aside from that, very great lineup. Just a bit overpriced. I'm not really sure why. I mean, I thought for the last few years, Lowe's wasn't really that badly priced. I mean, the pneumatics were definitely very high, but I thought for their quality, they were definitely worth it. So seeing here, things for like $350 normally, when they should be like $200 to $230 at the most. Not really sure why. And Lowe's is typically not a company with coupons, so unfortunately a lot of this stuff is probably going to stay at this price. I'm hoping a lot of it is changed during the season or before release, because that has happened before with Lowe's. Sometimes they'll lower things, sometimes they'll raise things. So I guess we will have to kind of wait and see until the actual full release. But overall, Lowe's has done a very good job with the techie side of the lineup. I think a lot of it looks awesome. So I definitely do like Lowe's a lot. Just the pricing is a bit much. But with that being said, that'll pretty much conclude this video on the Lowe's Halloween 2024 animatronics. If you guys enjoyed, make sure to like, comment, and subscribe. This video is definitely very long, but I got through it. And I will see you guys in the next Halloween video.